Hello, everyone. We're gonna officially start in a couple of minutes, but while we're waiting, I wanted to just invite you to chat um, where you're located physically, just to get a sense. One word to describe your state of being in this moment, and your level of comfort and experience with meditation on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being, yeah, I heard about that mindfulness thing, and 5, maybe you have a practice. Joe, 5. All right, Auburn, 5. Oh, we got an experienced group. Well, great mixed emotions. Okay, yeah, I know the feeling. Swirly, feeling stressed. I think we can all relate. In need of some stress relief, yes. Okay, well, you can keep those things coming, and I'll turn it over to Layla to officially start us off.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our second day of Lawyer Wellbeing Week. My name is Leila Kmushian. I am an immigration attorney based in Los Angeles. And I guess I put in the chat my meditation between one and 5, might be 5, some days it's 4. I don't know, depends on the day. And I'm super excited to introduce Gulu Singh to everybody today. I've known Gulu for a few years. We were trying to figure out yesterday how many years, but I think it's 4. And I was introduced to him by another colleague who also is a meditator. And I joined the lawyer and law students meditation group that he co-founded and still runs. And that group meets once a month. I believe it's the 4th Sunday of the month. And I'll let him give you the dates. And right now, it's currently still on Zoom. We used to meet in person. And before getting into his elaborate bio and resume, I can say that probably Gulu is the most Zen lawyer that I know. And I've met. I've been practicing law for 15 years, and I've done all kinds of different things, including litigation before immigration. So here we are. He is a corporate real estate attorney based in Los Angeles, and leads group meditation and mindfulness classes at several locations, including inside LA and Spirit Rock Meditation Center, which is up north. He also runs the workshops right now online. And has been a lecturer or guest lecturer at UCLA School of Law. And with that, I will turn it over to Gulu so he can start this workshop.
Thank you, Layla. So what I'd like to do today, it's a short amount of time for a vast topic, is start with a very short practice just to arrive. Then I'm going to talk about some concepts of mindfulness. I'm going to talk about the 4 perils of the legal mind and maybe debunk the most prevalent myth in meditation. Then we'll do a meditation practice together, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions and discussion. So to begin, just inviting you to turn the attention inward, to make contact with the sense of there's a body, and the body might be seated. You can close the eyes or soften the gaze. And maybe taking a few intentionally deeper breaths, and on the exhale, inviting the body to soften. Each exhale can be an invitation to a softening, a settling. Beginning this process of fully arriving in this space and time. And if you notice any areas of the body where there's tension or activity, Again, you might invite the body to soften, to settle. Just allowing the stillness of the body to create a little bit of space for the activity of the mind and the body to settle. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So, however you use the mind, that's how we come to experience the mind. However you use the mind, that's how we come to experience the mind. So if we are tracking a lot of things, scattered, anxious, doom scrolling, or endlessly working or alternating endless work and binge watching, then this becomes how we experience the mind. We get good at being anxious and scattered, and it can even become our default state. The mind or the brain actually gets efficient at these patterns. Whatever we practice, we get good at. In fact, neuroscientists say that neurons that wire together fire together, that the brain actually forms better and faster neural pathways for whatever we're practicing. And this is why artists and musicians and athletes can dazzle us with amazing abilities. And also why when we're prone to anxiety and fear and worry and procrastination, we might struggle. This is what we've been practicing, and so we get very good at it. And with the mind, in some sense, we're always using the mind, so we're always practicing. We're always practicing something. However, we're using the mind, that becomes the habit of the mind. So when it comes to skills like, for example, oral argument or persuasive writing or negotiation, we might intentionally embark on practice. And we know that we get better through repetition, and if we're lucky, with good mentors and teachers. But when it comes to the mind, we may not think of intentional practice for the mind. And if we're not practicing intentionally cultivating qualities like being calm and kind and generous and clear-headed, then we kind of end up by default practicing whatever it is that's influencing the mind from the environment, from those that we're around, from the greater culture. And as lawyers, our environments are generally terrible. I don't need to tell you this. It's due to the nature of the profession and those that are drawn to it. So I'd like to name the so-called perils of the legal mind. As far as I know, this phrase was coined by my friend and fellow lawyer meditation teacher, Judy Cohen. And I love this idea of peril, that's like dangers that we can be aware of, but we're not doomed to them. They're tendencies of the mind, things that we, in effect, practice that contribute to stress, suffering, both professionally and that can slip into our personal lives as well. So the first peril of the legal mind is that we are often in overwhelm. The practice of law is often overwhelming. The business model in most places, at least in the private practice arena, is that we continually increase our capacity for work, more billable hours, and in the public or nonprofit sector, there's often underfunding that leads to overwork. And in this overwhelm, there's a kind of trauma from the working environment, from the subject matter of the working environment, depending on our practice area. We might have vicarious trauma from clients, which also leads to overwhelm. The second peril of the legal mind is that those who are drawn to the practice of law often suffer from perfectionism and expecting perfection from an imperfect world is a recipe for stress. You know, it's often said that perfection is the enemy of excellence. And for me, I find perfectionism can be a block to even starting something. Like I can get frozen in a procrastination mode because I feel like whatever I'm going to do is not perfect. The third peril of the legal mind is a kind of negativity bias. So this is our training often, to know what could go wrong, what could blow up, to imagine and fully visualize the worst case scenario. And so this becomes the tendency of the mind. You know, someone writes us a beautiful letter or an email and we see the typos. We're so trained to find fault that this can often slip into our personal lives and affect our intimate relationships. And then the fourth peril of the legal mind, I'm sure we could come up with many more, but the fourth one I want to talk about is that we are often embattled. Many of us live in constant conflict, some more than others. So we may be trained to be combative, to feel that sense of, you know, bracing as you go into battle. And, you know, not just opposing counsel, but colleagues in the office, you know, almost any work office, there's competition amongst peers, office politics. Can seem like everyone is against us. And then again, we can see how this might have negative effects as it spills over into our personal life. So my proposition for you today is that meditation is a powerful antidote to the suffering that comes from these perils of the legal mind. Really any mind, but some of us need more practice to unlearn these bad habits. So I'd like to talk about two mechanisms for this transformation. The first one I've already talked about. When we meditate, we're training the mind to be steady, calm, and aware. We're practicing a different way of connecting with our experience. And the more that we do this, the more we're able to access this quality of being calm, steady, and clear-minded in our daily life. The other, another mechanism for how meditation can work is that when we practice formal meditation, we can create a kind of condition in which the overactivity of the mind can naturally settle. So we know, like with the body, if I am jogging up a flight of steps, that all kinds of things will happen. My blood pressure will go up, my respiration, my heart rate, a million other things that are below the level of consciousness happen to harness that energy to put the body into an activated state. But when I come into stillness, over time, the body will seek its own level and equilibrium. It does that naturally. The body kind of craves a kind of equilibrium. And the mind is very much the same. You know, for most of us, the mind is in constant stimulation, constant inputs, emotional experiences we have to process, problems we have to solve, difficulty, the feeling of the rat race treadmill where we're always busy and always moving. That creates a kind of activation in the mind. And when we meditate, we come into stillness and we give the mind a kind of simple task, say to focus on the breath. That stillness, that not engaging with the inputs in the environment creates a kind of space which allows the activity of the mind to naturally settle, to naturally find its own equilibrium. I like the analogy of a snow globe. Fortunately, I broke my snow globe, so I don't have it to show you, but going through life is like being in a snow globe that is constantly being shaken with our responsibilities and our activities. And so the experience of going through daily life is being in this swirl of the snow globe. But as soon as we set the snow globe down on the table, it will naturally, in its own time, find its own equilibrium. And what I love about the snow globe metaphor is that there's really nothing you can do to manipulate the snow globe to cause it to settle faster. Like we think, must be some technique, if I turn it this way or that way, but any attempt to manipulate the snow globe actually just creates more agitation in the snow globe. And meditation is a little bit like this. Part of the medicine of meditation is the non-doingness of the meditation. So lastly, before we do a practice together, I'd like to debunk the number one myth of meditation. I'd be a rich person if I had a nickel for every time I heard someone say something like, I can't meditate because my mind wanders too much. So this is a myth. The mind will wander. It's not a problem. It's the nature of our minds. We grew up as animals roaming the savannah, and it was very important that we were constantly scanning the horizon for threats and for food. Over time, if you practice meditation, depending on conditions, it may wander less, but on average, I'd say. But the wandering mind is not a problem. The wandering mind is not a problem. If during the practice, I shouldn't say if, I should say when during the practice, the mind wanders, when you notice it's wandering, you just begin again in that moment. That's it. Very simple. Not a big to-do. No problem. One very famous research study found that on average, people's minds wander 47% of the time. And as someone who has done a lot of meditation, that number actually sounds a little low to me. So fully expect the mind to wander. And when you notice the mind has wandered, that actually is a very powerful moment of potential, that mysterious realization that seems to come out of nowhere that, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating and I'm thinking about what's for lunch. That's actually the moment of mindfulness. That's the moment of returning, of coming back to your practice, of coming back to this present moment. And while we might often, chastise ourselves that, oh, mind's wandering, actually we should be celebrating that moment, because that's the moment that's building the muscle of mindfulness. It's the rep in the gym that is strengthening our capacity to return again and again to the present moment experience. So I'd like to just dive into the practice, and then we'll have plenty of time for discussion. We'll do about a 20-minute practice together. And several of you are quite experienced, so that's great. You know the drill. If you're new to meditation, just try to follow along as best as you can. I'm going to give clear instructions and guidance, and just to the best of your ability, follow the guidance. So turning the attention again inward, connecting with this sense of body. You can close the eyes if that's comfortable, or just soften the gaze. Maybe a sense of the posture being upright, alert, but also grounded, connected to the earth. In fact, feeling the weight of your body and your feet. If your feet are touching the floor. And feel the weight of your body on your tailbone. The pressure of the weight of the body pressing against your seat. Relaxing into this sense of being grounded and connected to the earth. And again, just noticing if there's any area of the body where there's some tension, or tightness. And inviting the body to soften and to settle. Releasing what can easily be released. And then noticing how it is in the body. What's the predominant feeling tone? Or maybe a predominant emotion. And seeing if you can connect with that experience with a kind of softness, a kind of welcoming. That's the truth of this moment, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Maybe notice what sensations are most prominent in the body. And if it's possible, maybe noticing what's the attitude of the mind, the mood of the mind, the lens that is filtering how you're relating to your experience. Mind can be happy or grumpy. Again, not with the idea of changing anything, but just to connect with the truth of this moment, gathering data. And then inviting you to rest your attention on the feeling of the breath moving through the body. Connecting with the tactile, visceral sense, a felt sense that the body is breathing. So it's not an idea or a concept, but an actual present moment feeling. You might notice this in the rise and fall of the belly. Or the rise and fall of the chest. Or perhaps you might track the entire cycle of the breath from the moment of the inhale, the filling of the lungs, all the way to the end of the exhale. So the field of awareness is filled with the sensations of the breath moving through the body, and everything else is just in the background. Thoughts, worries, emotions, sounds, just resting in the background. Not getting involved in them. Just letting the practice be very simple, breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in, breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. Not trying to make anything happen, just resting in this connection to the aliveness of this body through the breath. And if there are areas of strong activation, some feeling of stress or discomfort or unpleasantness, you can include that in the meditation, holding that part of the body in awareness and having this sense of breathing with or breathing through that experience. Again, with this attitude of allowing, meeting it softly and gently with care. And every time the mind wanders, kind of shaking it off and beginning again. Reconnecting with the felt sense of the breath moving through the body. When breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in. When breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. And everything else is set aside or in the background. In these moments of practice, there is a kind of liberation in that there's nowhere to go, nothing you have to do, no one you have to be or become. Just this simple breath. In these moments, just to be alive is enough. And as we continue this process of settling, it can be helpful to notice more subtle aspects of the breath. You might notice some movement in the shoulders. Maybe a slight movement in the bones of the rib cage. Maybe some sensations in the lower back. Or perhaps you can feel the movement of air at the upper lip. And if you're especially attuned and sensitive in this moment, you might notice a coolness on the inhale and a warmth on the exhale. And this process of patiently connecting and reconnecting with the breath, this is the heart of the meditation practice. So breathing in, aware of breathing in, breathing out, aware of breathing out, and aware through the tactile, visceral, felt sense of the body. Sometimes can be helpful if you notice the mind is caught in thought to just drop in a gentle word or phrase to describe the kind of thinking. Could be like planning, remembering, worrying, daydreaming. Just an acknowledgement, and then bringing the attention back to the felt sense of the breath moving through the body. Letting the effort be easy so the practice is restful. And just gently holding the awareness on the feeling of the breath moving through the body. And then I like to end this period of meditation with a gratitude practice. So bringing to mind someone, some being, or some situation for which you have a sense of gratitude would be the simplest thing. And if it's a person or another living being, you might sense into what it feels like to be in their presence. To visualize them and invoke any other sense, any other sense memory or association with this person or this situation. A sight, a sound, a taste, a smell, a tactile feeling. Any other images that come to mind, colors or and then connecting with a sense of gratitude as a felt sense in the body. Finding the seat of gratitude in your body and holding it in awareness. Sensing into the energy and the feeling of gratitude. It's usually quite pleasant, and we can rest in the goodness of gratitude. I practice gratitude, it uplifts the mind, uplifts the heart. It's an antidote to that negativity bias, an antidote to the feeling of being embattled. And if you dare, letting the inner smile of gratitude become even the most subtle outward expression of joy, happiness. And then inviting you to let go of that practice, to let go of anything that feels like a practice or a technique, and just rest. Just resting, awareness notices experience, but you can just let it be, not getting involved, just resting. I'll now ring the bell to signify the end of the formal period of practice. So thank you for the practice, and I just want to open it up to any questions or comments or reflections. I'm interested to hear how that was for you. Would love it if more people wanted to come on screen if that's available. Hello. Nice to see some smiling faces. Let me ask you this. Did anybody notice that their mind wandered? Can raise your hand or your electronic hand. Yeah, okay. I think we have near unanimity on that. And what about a before and after? Short practice, 20 minutes. Feel the same, feel better, feel worse? Feel better, okay. That's good. Calmer, feel better. So the research shows that if you meditate for 8 weeks, that there are actually structural changes to the brain. This is kind of a new, relatively new understanding that the brain, and we used to have a kind of model that the brain was like a computer and it was hardware and that hardware is fixed. And the emerging understanding is that the physiology of the brain actually changes through meditation. And with this type of mindfulness meditation in particular, what researchers have found through functional MRI studies is that the part of the brain that reacts to stress becomes more resistant to stress. So it takes a more stressful event to cause that kind of feeling of, being adrenal and being stressed out and that kind of the fight or flight reaction that the body goes into. And that we become more resilient in the sense that when we do get taken off our center point in balance, we come more quickly back to that place of equilibrium. These are usually don't tell people this part, but so far they've found that these changes in the brain last after 8 weeks of meditation, even if people stop practicing. So someone is saying they stood for the practice. That's great. If I myself am often uncomfortable sitting. I have lower back issues, so I will often stand for meditation. It's said classically that you can meditate in any posture, standing, sitting, lying down, or walking. Lying down, I often practice lying down. The main challenge in practicing lying down is to stay awake. So sometimes helpful to find a place on the ceiling to like kind of keep your interest and attention. So somebody's saying partway through, I started feeling really squirmy and it kind of exhausted. So switched to lying on the floor and help lying. So it's great. So yeah, we often notice in meditation that when we tune in, we kind of, the mental image I like to have is sort of like this, like if my hands are the breath, I'm coming in contact with the breath and kind of letting the outer environment just be there. And in just doing that, there's a kind of greater sensitivity and awareness for what's happening. I will often notice I might be going through the day with a vague sense of anxiety or unease, and then when I begin to meditate, that low hum becomes like a roar because that's all, in a smaller field. And so this is another encouragement that actually when you notice that you feel a little bit squirmy or you're more in touch with a sense of restlessness or anxiety, that may be in fact the practice doing its work to illuminate that to you so that you can be aware of it. And then there becomes a kind of feedback loop that when we really come in contact with the discomfort of these experiences, then the body and the mind starts to say, well, gee, this is terrible. I don't want this. Any other comments or thoughts? Or I could keep talking, but I would like to hear from you too. I become aware of how much tension I'm holding. Yes, this is half the point of this meditation practice is to increase our intimacy with what we're actually experiencing. And physical tension is, for me, a lifelong challenge to be aware of it and let it go when I can. The body is really always communicating so many things to us, and so often we just aren't paying attention. How many times have you been sitting at your office just in hunger, or at your desk in hunger, or needing to go to the restroom, and you're just kind of like shoving those messages aside? Yeah, like Yvonne's saying, this what we're sort of saying the same thing at the same time, is like we can tune into or have more receptivity to the kind of the simple messages that our body is giving us that would create a greater sense of ease and well-being. We be caught up in the idea of like, I'm so busy I can't take a 2 or 3 minute break, but could challenge that hypothesis. So the other thing that I'll say is that I have found these periods of extended practice to be quite helpful. Like I try to sit for about 45 minutes a day, and I like to do extended silent retreats where you go and you just do nothing but meditate. And I found those to be life transforming and extremely beneficial. And also, tiny moments of paying attention throughout the day are also very fruitful. I used to have a Post-it note on my monitor that said, you have a body. And, like often I get this feeling when I'm in, especially, a very cerebral place where I'm writing something, and there's just this sense of just being like ahead and forgetting the rest of the body, which is actually a terrible feeling when you touch into that. And so I just had this reminder, you have a body. And every time my eye would catch that Post-it note, I'd just take 10 seconds, 15 seconds to just feel that I have a body, to feel my weight against the floor, to feel the weight of my body on my chair, to check in, like, does this body need something in this moment? Maybe I need to stretch. Maybe I need some food or drink or other kind of nourishment. I do have a website with some guided, one of the pages will take you to a SoundCloud, my SoundCloud page, and I have lots of different meditations of different lengths. So I invite you to check that out. It is helpful when you're beginning a practice to have some guidance. I'd also say that, meditation in all posture, walking meditation has been very, very helpful for me. Like in the moment where I do decide I'm going to get up from my desk and I'm going to go to the kitchen or get a drink of water or something, just to use those few moments, those few steps to really to feel the body in movement, to feel the changes of pressure on the bottom of the feet, to feel the movement of the ankle and the legs. A very, very simple thing, but it colloquially speaking, it kind of brings you out of your head and into your body. Yeah, movement meditation of all kinds. Swimming can be a great meditative movement. So my invitation to you is to just notice what you're practicing day by day, moment by moment, and see if there's space to practice something different. And this for me starts with a meditation, but it goes into even a deeper exploration of what am I consuming? How am I stewarding? Am I practicing good stewardship of the mind? And what am I taking in terms of information and data? Am I doom scrolling about all the terrible things that are happening in the world? Or for me, it's obsessively reading the New York Times. And there are times when it feels helpful to be engaged and up to speed, and there are times where it just is it's a peril. if you read nothing but the news, then you really do begin to think the world is a terrible place because that's all you hear about. And to intersperse your life, to make space in your life for moments of gratitude, for moments of human connection, whether in person or virtual, for appreciation, all these kinds of like kind of inner states can be states that we practice. We can practice being generous, we can practice being kind, and in some way they are all practicing something different than what we usually practice, and in that sense beneficial. Do I find that music helps or interferes with meditation practice? I came up in a school of meditation where we don't use music because the idea is to pay attention to your internal experience, and the music sometimes feels like an external experience. But in concept, I don't think there's anything, if meditation at its core is about how we use our attention, I don't think there's any problem with using music as an object of meditation, to be with the music, keep your attention on the music, notice how the music is reverberating in your body. I probably suggest that it be instrumental, because if it's lyrics, then that tends to generate a lot of thinking. I think we can end it there. Thank you so much. You have my website. If you want to, I am very inspired to do these kinds of things. I'm even more inspired to offer meditation courses to people or groups that are interested, because I really do believe this is a skill, that it requires practice. And when we practice in a group with friends and somebody who has a little bit of facility with the material, it's been so fruitful and rewarding. So you'll see that I'm offering some of that on my website, and that if you have an organization that's interested in that, please let me know. I'd love to share that.